Good evening, everybody. Let's just put that so that you can see that a bit better. There we go. And I did it again. I was about to come on live, and I hadn't. I had changed. I'd taken the ATUR out and forgotten to put the U and the N back in on Sunday. So it's Sunday night. It is what is it? The 16th. It's Sunday the 16th. Hi Tristan. Sunday the 16th of, I was going to say January. Why on earth was I going to say January? It's September, isn't it? I tell you what, I've had a snooze this evening and I only woke up about 40 minutes ago. Hi Janet. And I do feel a bit sleepy. But you know, I had a much needed snooze, and so maybe that's why I'm sort of getting myself confused. Anyway, we've got Sunday up here. I did remember to change it just before I came on camera. I'm just going to refresh the page so that I've got the page coming up with the comments on. So what sort of day have you had? I've had a day where I've been out. Some of you will have seen. I've been out to a classic car show, and that classic car show has evoked a lot of memories for me, because while I was out at the car show, there were certain cars, you know, that I used to drive a long time ago. So it sort of got me thinking that, you know, I could chat about some of those memories this evening. Basically, yesterday and today, there's been a car show on the Isle of Wight, a classic car show involving over 700 vehicles. That's an awful lot of vehicles, and some of them are from the island. There is a classic. There's some classic car groups on the island. I know there's an American classic car group. I didn't know that until earlier, but I found that out while I was down on the esplanade. And so yesterday they were all over in Newport. Newport is our county town. It's like our capital in the middle of the island. You know, we're a diamond-shaped island like this, and Newport's right in the middle. Ryde is sort of up the top here. I can't remember which way to work it because you'll be seeing back to front, but Ryde is at sort of the top there somewhere, one side or t'other, and I'll confuse myself by trying to get it the right way around, because of course I have to do everything in reverse for you to see it the right way. That writing up there is in reverse to me, so I have to remember to reverse the letters when I put them on there. And if I think I've got them all the right way around, yes I have. Oh, I seem quite thirsty tonight. Yes, so yesterday I couldn't get to the car show because I was doing other things. I got an invite. I think I mentioned it probably in last night's broadcast. I had an invite to celebrate the first anniversary of a shop, of a cafe over in Shanklin. So that was rather nice. I went over there for nibbles, drinks and nibbles last night, and I met some nice people over there. Another networking opportunity, because where there's people, there's networking opportunities. And so that was very nice. So today I decided I would do the classic car day. I would live stream it, and but I decided not to rush. It was on from 10 this morning until 5 this afternoon. So I thought, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to rush. What's happened is that because I've done so much live streaming, and because I didn't automatically put everything onto YouTube initially, because I was putting it, I was saving it, and some of the stuff went up on YouTube, but I hadn't put it all up, and I hadn't put in all my keywords and all the information and all the blurb. And now suddenly I've got all these live streams that need really to go on YouTube, especially on the Isle of Wight channel. Because more and more people are now finding my YouTube channel. I hadn't promoted it much before because I wanted everybody to look at the live streams and the replays. Hi James, through Facebook, because I wanted all the stats going there. But now people are starting to find me through YouTube without me promoting it. And so now I think it's time to get the stuff on there and promote it. So I have been. So this morning I spent time. And of course now I've got a whole backlog of live streams to get up onto YouTube. So I've got to keep going back and looking, have I put this one up? Have I put this one up? There's so many of them. I've got 100 up and I've done hundreds. So there's an awful lot of work to do. So I've got my work cut out, but I will plod through it all. And it's rather nice, actually. Hi, Martin and James. Did I say hello, James? I don't know. James, well done on your live stream earlier. James is one of those people who started embracing live stream. I went up to Kettering, gave a talk. He was there, and he now is embracing the live stream. He started live streaming this afternoon, and I was just in having a bite to eat at the Super Bowl. I wasn't bowling, but I was in the Super Bowl area, and I vaguely heard what you were saying, James, and very brave of you to go on and talk about what you were talking. I got the gist of what you were talking about, but I have to watch it back, James, because it was very difficult because all the bowling balls were crashing behind me. So I will check that out later, James. But definitely well done on, as I say, I heard the gist of it. I had my phone right up like this to my ear, but it was still very hard to hear you. And so I decided I'd watch your broadcast later. So I'll probably watch it when I finish this, but well done on that one, James. Yes, so I decided that I was going to go and do this live streaming, and I wasn't going to rush to do it. Because this morning I was putting some things up on YouTube, and while I was doing that, I saw a couple of people who were down at the Classic Car event doing their own live stream. So I thought, oh yes, I'll go down there and I'll do my live stream in a while, because there's room for lots of people to do live stream. Oh, thirsty tonight. So I think I eventually got down there about between 1 and 2, and oh my goodness, what a beautiful day it was here on the Isle of Wight. This morning when I was thinking about going out, it looked like it was going to be a dull day and possibly rain, and by the time I got out there we had a beautiful blue sky, and it was really warm down there. It was like a warm summer's day. And the crowds, there was masses of crowds, and there were an awful lot of cars. So if anybody was in that live stream and stayed all the way through with me, I walked the length of Ryde Esplanade. Well, not quite the last bit, but those cars. Ryde Esplanade is very long. It goes from our bus. Actually, there weren't cars at the bus station. It was a bit further up. It started at Super Bowl, and it went all along past the bowling green, past Peter Pan, the children's playground, past the boating lake, all the way down, almost up to Apley, and that was an awful lot of cars to see. Somebody said there were about 700 cars. I don't know a lot about cars, but I know more about cars this year than I did last year. So I was looking at them, looking for the names, finding some information, or just talking about how nice and shiny they were. The cars were shiny, the engines were shining, and very proud people, very proud owners of the cars. Lots of the cars said you can look, but please don't touch, because obviously they'd spent hours and hours cleaning their cars up, and they didn't want sticky fingers or people damaging them. And one person I know, she is an owner of a classic car, and she says, oh, you got to be careful. I said, I'll stay right away with Lil. There's no way I'm going to bump into these. And she said, you have to watch out for people on mobility scooters, or the people with kids who do, just pull at things and whatever. Anyway, it was a lovely day, lovely day, a lot of entertainment for a lot of people. And of course, as I was going along, it evoked a huge amount of memories for me, because there were cars that I've had my driving. I still have a driving license. I don't have a car at the moment, but I have a free bus pass, so I don't see the point of having the expense of running a car when I can get around for free. And I do a lot of networking and a lot of meeting new people on the bus. So to me, that's my preferred choice of transport. And at the moment that suits very well. And but I have held my driving license for 41 years. I passed, of course, my birthday was last Saturday. My license dated from my 17th birthday, and by the time I was 17 and 2 months, I'd passed my test. So just coming up to 41 years of actually being a qualified driver. And I've in all those years I've driven to some lovely places. I've driven all over the country, including up to Scotland on my own from the Isle of Wight. That was in later years when I was actually, after I wasn't a teacher anymore, I was selling children's books, and I used to go and sell at shows, and I decided to book a show in Scotland, and so I took a a 2-day trip to drive up to Scotland on my own. I had a little van and I loaded it up and off I went, and I had an adventure. It was great because as I went up, I weaved my way up the country, and I went to see a friend here and a friend there, and I went in to see my son, I think, on the way, one of my sons on the way up, Toby, the older one. And then on the second day, I weaved my way further up. So it was quite interesting. But at that time, actually, I was doing that journey when the 7/11 bombs went off in London, and that's not so much the memories that I want to remember, because I was travelling and my daughter rang me. So I don't ever use my phone while I'm driving. So I knew that there'd been a call. So when it was convenient, I pulled in to service station and checked the call, and she was ringing me, and on my car radio, I had heard that there was a power surge. That's what they gave it out as initially, a power surge in London. So I didn't panic, because that's what I heard it was. But she was nanny to 3 children, and she'd heard that bombs had gone off in London, and we had family in London, and she needed to know that family was safe. But because she was looking after 3 little children, she couldn't sort of keep making the phone calls. She tried to make the phone calls and couldn't get through. So she asked me if I could do the phone calls. So I sort of delayed my carrying on my trip to make the phone calls to make sure that family was safe, and they were all safe. I think my daughter's husband had gone through one of the stations 4 minutes before the bomb, but 4 minutes in those circumstances is quite a long time. It doesn't sound long, but and then the others were safe. There were several of our family in London at that time, but they were all safe. So once I'd established they were safe, I went on my merry way. And then at one point, I didn't realise, but actually I was in a very vulnerable position because there was a summit going on, and it would have been the perfect target for bombers, and I drove right past it, and I didn't realise I was coming, I was on that road until a huge police escort, or a huge police load of motorcyclists came the other way. But, they didn't drop a bomb there, and it was, I lived to tell the tale. And I don't think you can sit and worry about these things. If you do, you'd never do anything. There'd always be the worry of, what if? So I don't tend to worry about those things, but that's one of the things that happened, and that's when I was driving a van. So that there weren't vans, there weren't really vans in it today. So went right back. One of the earliest cars my parents drove, there was a consul, and there were some consuls in the parade, and of course that reminded me of an incident that happened. We didn't have garages. We didn't have a garage at our house in those days. We had a car, and of course in the winter it was very, very difficult to start the engines. Not so easy as perhaps they are now, and so my mum and dad put a little heater under the bonnet of the car. I think they suspended it on a string or something. Well, one day the heat from the heater caught the string alight that was holding it in the engine, and it caught the car on fire. Fortunately, it was just outside, nobody injured, only the car. But that was my memory of a consul. But the consul was, one of our early cars. Actually, before the consul, my mum learnt to drive. She learnt to drive before my dad did, and she went off and had some secret driving lessons that we didn't know about. And then she had a car. She had one of those old Ford cars that you actually had to start with a starting handle. I don't know. Only people as old as me will remember those cars. But it was like a big handle, and you started them by just winding the big handle. It's like clockwork, putting it in the front of the car and turning it. So I bet not many of my viewers will remember those cars, but I remember that. So that was an old Ford, was the first car we had. And those of you just coming into the broadcast, I'm reminiscing about old cars, because I've been to live stream the classic car show today that was in Ryde, and there were about 700 cars there today, and that was an awful lot of cars, and I walked all the way along the esplanade, and I was going to break up the live stream, but I did it all in one, and so I'm pushing the trolley, pushing Lilac Lil, holding the holding my camera, and fortunately it wasn't raining, so not having to hold any tarpaulins over my head or anything today. We did remind me of the memories of the ride out, because on the ride out recently, the scooterist ride out, when I live streamed that, I was under a tarpaulin because the rain, it was torrential rain. Today it was beautiful sunshine, so I didn't have to contend with a tarpaulin as well. But I did have to contend with a very long walk, and I was a bit tired today. I think all the excitement of going away and being away for 9 or 10 days has just caught up with me, so I am a bit sleepy, which is probably why I fell asleep this evening. But I did set an alarm so that I'd be awake to do my broadcast, because earlier, did you enjoy it? Yes, and it was just, the sky was so blue, Janet. It was just so beautifully blue and so warm down there. So many people, and some of those people have come across from the mainland just for the day. You know, people from Portsmouth were coming across because it's very easy to get across. All those people with the cars, most of those cars came from the mainland. Very, very good for our economy, something like this, you know, to see so many people. And because it was a lovely sunny day, I know all the ice cream sellers were doing very well. I know one of our councillors, Wayne Whittle, he manages to, some kiosks along the front, and there's one kiosk where I go, and he had a long queue for ice cream. So, you know, I hope I'm sure he's done very well today. But of course, then they have to contend with the days when it's not so good. But, you know, that was nice to see. So I'm glad you enjoyed seeing the cars. So so the Consul was, so the Ford, the old Ford was what my mum drove. And in fact, she learnt to drive when she'd got after she'd had her 4th child, and trying to get us around, she just decided to go off and have some secret driving lessons. I don't know if she even told my dad. I can't remember that one, but I know that they were secret from us, and we didn't know until she passed her test, and suddenly she's got this Ford car and driving us around. So that was an interesting one. Then we had the Consul, and we all used to pile into the Consul. I'm one of 4, so there'd be 6 of us. So that was a 6-seater car. And I can remember my dad doing the packing for going on holiday and squeezing all the items in the boot, and then you know, somebody coming out with something at the last minute and Dad trying to squeeze it in. It was always something awkward shaped at the end, you know, not something nice and flat. There'd be something with maybe a handle on it or what, for him to squeeze in. Happy memories of my dad trying to pack the car and get everything in. And then, of course, we would have taken all our teddies and all our whatever we had as children, the blankets and things we had, you know, these comfort blankets and things. Lots of happy memories, and memories we used to go off. A lot of the time we used to holiday at Butlins, at Bognor, or Butlins at Minehead. So some of those cars will have, you know, done those journeys. And I can remember one journey when I think we were going to Minehead, and it was a very long journey. The roads weren't so good in those days, and there'd been a car accident just before we got there, and we had to go on a huge diversion all the way around. It put another hour on our journey. We'd been travelling for hours, and then it put another hour on our journey. So, you know, all these things from just thinking about cars, you know, how many memories you can get from that. So anyway, that was a Consul. And then what Mum and Dad did after that, they had 2 cars. Instead of having 1 car that fitted 6 of us, they went to 2 Anglias. So they had 2 Ford Anglias. So they had a yellow one and a blue one, a royal dark blue one. And Mum drove one and Dad drove the other. And I and one of my siblings went with Mum, and my dad took I think I went with Graham, and I think Dad took Sue and David. So we used to travel in 2 cars. For whatever reason, they went that way. Anyway, so they had those cars for quite a time, and they had those cars when I was 17 and passed my test. Because what had been happening, my dad used to run us to school or run us to the bus station and drop us off at the bus to get to school. This was our high school, our secondary school. And when I passed my test, my dad let me take the car to school. So I used to take my siblings to school because I was the first one passing my test. My sister didn't drive until later. And so, and it was quite fun because I was actually, because my birthday is September the 8th, I was one of the oldest in the school year. So I was one of the first pupils to drive a car to school in my year. A bit of a bragging right there. I don't know. I don't know why I need that, but I don't. But it was fun. Anyway, so those were cars I drove early on, so that I remembered the colours, and so of course I saw some Anglias I didn't see the Anglias of the same colour we had, but I did see Anglias of different colours today. So happy memories coming back there. And then what next? Oh yes, so when I got married, we were, and this was an interesting one. When I got married, I married a policeman, and I met the policeman on my doorstep because my parents' house was burgled, and he was the policeman who came to investigate the crime. And the headline in the local newspaper was PC went to probe crime and found himself a bride. I've still got the cutting, although I've long since, we were long since divorced. I've still kept my album and the memories, because sometimes it's nice to remember some of the memories, and a lot of happy memories there as well. So I know that it's tucked in the book there, but that was quite fun. So he obviously drove Panda cars a lot, and the old Panda cars, the local Bobby. Don't know how many of you remember that. When you had a policeman and a policeman were out there, looking out for problems. Now you're lucky if you see a policeman at all. And here on the island, I'm not quite sure how many police we've got even left. There are some, but not many. Anyway, so I went. So what happened after the Anglias? That's right. When Ivor and I first got married, we were on good incomes. I was a teacher, he was a policeman. We were living in a police flat rent-free, so we decided to buy a new car. Except that some jealous person somewhere decided to report us. We perfectly could afford it because we had a good income, and so we bought the car. I think we bought it outright because we could. But even back then, I've had jealous people around me all my life, and even back then, we know who it was. We think we're pretty sure it was a police officer who reported, because of course my husband was in the police. You had to be seen to be even more squeaky clean back then than anyway, otherwise. And because he was in the police, somebody reported us. And so what happened? He guessed, because he was on the beat, and he'd see this car, and he kept seeing the same car around because he was an observant Bobby. So he did a check on the police car, and he was told to leave it alone because it was a police car on duty. So, of course, he suddenly realised that that's probably what it was. We bought a car outright, so we must have done it. We must have been up to some mischief, which we weren't. We had the money to do it in the good old days, as I call them. And so, anyway, so that was by the by. But my husband had a wicked sense of humour too. And every time he saw the car, he'd nip off down a lane where the car couldn't go, and he gave them a good run for their money. But we were quite legit. It was okay to buy a car. We weren't on a mortgage. If we'd been on a mortgage, we wouldn't have been able to buy the car. But we were lucky enough to have police accommodation free for quite a time before we did invest in our own home. So that was let me think. So the first car we had then, that was a Ford Escort. and it was a red Ford Escort, and I loved it. And then I think that was the one that one day, I mean, it was a new car when we got it, but I think it was one day I had a problem starting it. And of course, don't forget, I said we lived in police flats, and policemen, of course, work shift work. So some of the police would be asleep when I was trying to start my car. I unfortunately woke some of them up with the, trying to get the engine started. But hopefully they weren't too annoyed with me. I don't remember. I just remember being embarrassed at trying to start the car, and it's not something you can do quietly under those circumstances. So we lived in the police flat. We had a red Ford Escort. I loved my red car. They said there's certain things about the colour of the car you buy and your personality. Anyway, loved my red Escort, and that was great. But I think before the Escort, I don't know if I think my mum and dad let me use one of their cars because the family were going away, and I think I had one of their cars. But I do remember, yes, it must have been one of those cars, or before I had the Ford Escort. I'm actually, my memory's slipping now on what order these things went in because I'm talking about a long time ago. So I know that on one occasion, and I think it must have been the Escort. It was an older car. It wasn't the Ford. I'm sure it wasn't the Ford Escort. It was one of the older cars. And it was the one I'd had a trouble starting that morning. So perhaps it wasn't the Escort. It might have been I think I had Mum and Dad's Anglia before we bought our own car. And this is probably pre-Escort days. And we had been away on holiday, my husband and I. We'd gone away in half term. And because the weather hadn't been great, we picnicked in the car. And we hadn't had time to tidy the car out. So the picnic rubbish was still in the car. And I'd had a job to start the car that morning. And then I'd been to school. I'd come back from school. I'd gone into Ealing to park the car and go to the library or something like that. And I came out of the library and there was a big empty space where my car had been. And that was a really sinking feeling, seeing that somebody had stolen my car. And so, I mean, we actually got the car back 3 weeks later. We would rather have got the insurance money because by that time, it would have been better to have the insurance money. But they found the car and I think they'd stripped all sorts of things out of it. I don't know. And they'd even stripped my school bag out of it. Now, my teacher's bag with my children's school reading records were in there. That was not even any good to another teacher because it was personal to my class, all those reading records. So I never did get those back. But these days, of course, you do stuff electronically and there's always a backup copy. Then excuse me, I just have to get a drink of water. I've drunk a lot of water and I don't have enough. And I will be back. I'm coming back. So I'm just over here. And you've got a big empty space over there. And here I come. I'm coming back. Whoops. Sorry. Very thirsty tonight. So that was a horrible feeling to have parked my car and then come back and there was a big... nobody else had even parked in the space. It was just a big empty space where I'd been. But as I say, we got the car back 3 weeks later. We didn't get even my school bag back. What we think they'd done, I think there'd been a rail strike and perhaps that somebody had borrowed it because they hadn't borrowed it, stolen it. I don't know. We don't know. It was perhaps joyriders or whatever it was. And they'd obviously thrown everything out. They even emptied all the rubbish out. I said we'd been having picnic stuff. All the picnic stuff was gone too. But by the by, I got the car back. And I think that's probably when we went on to buy the Escort. And so I loved my red Escort. So we had that for a while. And then at one stage, I'm trying to think of the order of it. I know I had a Ford Cortina, and it was this was a brown and cream one. Sort of, I think the roof was brown and the side was creamy colour, and it was an automatic car. But I couldn't get on with automatic. I never could get on with automatic, so eventually we got rid of that. and I ended up with a Mini, an orangey red Mini. And that was great for a while. And then my son started at the private school, and it was quite a distance away from where we lived, so we mums doubled up. So we'd take it, you know, we'd share trips and share the journeys, which was fine when the boys were small. But as the boys grew, don't forget, it was a Mini I had, and I was doing taking three boys on the trip, so we were sharing journeys. And as the boys got bigger, so did their PE kits and things got bigger, and eventually there was too much stuff to go in a Mini. I had to get a bigger car. So I can't remember what I went to. Maybe I've got the cars in the wrong order. I know maybe the Cortina came after the Mini. I'm not quite sure. But you know, it was. But I was lucky enough to pass my driving test first time when I was 17. They say the younger you are, the more likely you are to pass quicker. My mum took 6 attempts to get her driving licence, but no, I was lucky enough to do it on. You know, so by the time I was 17 and 2 months, I'd had my licence. So in a month, a couple of months' time, I will have had my licence for 41 years. Still got it. You don't. I think when you're 70, you have to renew. So that'll be in a couple of years' time. I will renew if I think I need to renew. If I don't have a car, I may not renew. I don't have a passport. I let my passport lapse because I haven't been abroad for a long time. So if ever I need to go abroad, I'll have to do that. But, you know, needs must when the devil drives. But at the moment, the devil doesn't drive, and nor do I. Oh, shit. So, sorry. Yes, so there were a lot of memories. So yes, it was. So I saw all sorts of cars today. I've never driven a Rolls Royce. There were a lot of Rolls Royces there. I can't even remember what car I drove, what car I had for my wedding. Well, I had two weddings. I've been married twice, and I can't. The second time it wasn't a posh. Such a posh do. The first time it was posh, but I don't remember. You know, I'm not good on cars, but today it was quite handy because lots of the cars had their names on the side of them. So there were all sorts of cars. There were all sorts of people there. There were lots of car clubs there. So I was trying to make a note of the car clubs so that I can actually share the live stream with them, because obviously they might like to see their cars there. So as I say, I walked right along that parade, trying to give you know, a running commentary on the cars as much as I could. And boy, did I get tired. No wonder I fell asleep tonight, because it was very tiring. But it was fun and I enjoyed it. And so when I got almost up to Apley, I had a sit down. I spotted a seat. One thing that's good about the Esplanade there in the island, we have a lot of seats. We also have a sea wall that you can sit on. Plenty of places to sit, and a lot of the people who'd come with their cars, they'd got their own fold-up seats. So they come with their fold-up seats and their picnics, and they chat to the people about their cars, and they watch the world go by. And of course, it was beautiful today. And Ryde Esplanade is such a beautiful place anyway, without the car shows and things, on its own. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful day. Hi, Juliet. Here's Juliet. She does a lot of walking. Have you done some more walking today, Juliet? I was just saying how I walked from Super Bowl all the way up to Apley along. I mean, I know that's not terribly far in the grand scheme of things, but I was live streaming the classic car show. So it was a little bit more time. When I do that, usually I'll walk some and sit, and walk some and sit. So anyway, when I got to the end there, I spotted a bench in the shade, because it was a bit hot by now, and I sat there watching the beauty of the sea, and you know, got the cars all around me, but I was looking over to Portsmouth, and could see the hovers coming in and out, the bit that I love, you know, just watching across the water. And then a lady came and sat next to me, and she was a day visitor, and she'd come over to see some family, but she was watching the classic car show as well. So we had quite a chat, and then I decided that I'd start making my way back the other way, and started pootling along. And then I caught up with my friend Mo, had been doing some photo shooting down on Apley Beach with Captain Nash, one of our local pirates, So she'd been doing that. I knew she was going to be down there, and then I spotted her, so we sort of walked along together. And then I bumped into a friend who actually has a classic car, and she was all dressed up in the, you know, a nice outfit to go with her classic car. So we did did a couple of photographs there, which will go up. She's one of the Isle of Wight stylers, the ladies 50 plus that belong to the same group as me. So that picture will go up on the stylers page. And so then I pootled back along with Mo, and then we sat down and had a chat, still in the beautiful sunshine. And then she had to go and get a bus. Hi, Michelle. And I decided to go and have some chips. So I went and had some chips, which was when James Crick there, he started to do his live stream, and that I couldn't hear because I was in by the bowling. So I will watch his live stream in a minute. But before I go, I've got some of my little books. So there we are, lots of memories from those cars today, all sorts of memories for me. You know, isn't it amazing how just a car can bring a lot of memories back, all sorts of fun things. And so I was enjoying some of those memories. And now I've got the Little Book of Quiet. Can you see it? Oh yes, the Little Book of Quiet. So let's have a little look. Here we go. I haven't marked any of these. Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something. And that's a Plato quote. Let's have a look. Break the habit of going straight to your mobile phone to check for messages and emails when you have quiet moments. You don't have to be on call and available 24 hours of the day. Use the time to practice being quiet. And I do have a struggle with that because I have a lot of people now messaging me through since I've been doing the live streaming. I've made so many more friends, so many people getting in touch. But sometimes I do just wait. I don't jump every time. Otherwise, you will be always jumping at every call. So occasionally I do sort of check myself and say, hang on, you know, just take a few minutes out. But if I take too long out, then I get, you know, all the messages are there stacking up. It says, quiet people have the loudest minds. Stephen Hawking. I don't know. Do you agree with that? To be a good listener is considered a key people skill. An essential requirement of being a good listener is to be quiet when other people are talking. So, you know, some value in being quiet. I actually love the quietness of my flat. And I don't often have music or anything on when I'm home because there's a lot of buzz when I'm out and you know, I'm on doing things on my phone, social media and all that lots of the time, and very noisy world we live in. When I come home, I like peace and quiet, so I rarely even put background music on. I do like music, but I just like to have some quietness sometimes as well. Silence is for me a font of healing which makes my life worth living. Talking is often a torrent for me, and I need many days of silence to recover from the futility of words. And that was Carl Jung said that. So let's have a look. We are having to go further afield to find quiet, to get away from the noise we make, to get more remote places to holiday, quiet compartments in trains and headphones to block out noise. But we are also seeking other ways of achieving a quieter life and less troubled minds through mindfulness and other stress-reducing practices. So there we go. And a report on the health effects of noise published by the World Health Organization in 2011 found that in Western Europe, excessive noise was second only to air pollution as a cause of environmental ill health. There we are. That was reported by The Economist. So there you go. Okay, and there's something here. The vocal cords need exercise in order to give your voice presence and command attention from an audience. Practice daily basic singing exercises, especially in the shower. Nobody wants to hear me sing, I'm sure. I do sing sometimes, and I sing happy birthday to people online. But my siblings always told me what a dreadful voice I had, so I grew up not ever wanting to sing. Now I'm over 60, I don't care, so I do burst into song sometimes, but, you know, if people don't like it, they don't have to listen. But I know that I don't have a very tuneful voice. You can't be good at everything. You can be good at some things, and you know that's good. Singing is not one of the things I excel at, and I know it. Speak tongue twisters out loud in front of the mirror. Record your voice so that you can adjust your tone or pitch and evaluate the clarity of your speech. Right, okay, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Instead of listening to music, the radio or podcasts, listen to recordings of birdsong or breaking waves to create a quiet space in a crowded place. And yesterday, of course, I was down on the seafront before the Classic Car Show. Was it yesterday or the day before? No, it was the day before. When I came in on the hover, I went down and I actually was recording the next hover going in and out. But when it wasn't there, there was the beauty of the waves just lapping very quietly on the shore, and it really was, you know, quite quiet. It was quite nice. So, and here we are. Knowing when to keep quiet is an important learning curve. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak out and remove all doubt. That's Abraham Lincoln. So that's out of my little book of quiet, Finding a Mindful Balance. There we are. And it says on the back, a happy life must be to a great extent a quiet life. Bertrand Russell. I don't know. Mine's been fairly noisy and I've had a reasonably happy life. Tiddy Rowan, is that who wrote the book? Not sure. I think that must be. And I've lived, you know, one of 4 children, so my life has been quite noisy most of the time. But here we are. Now I'm going to dip into the little book of friendship, because some of these books need a little bit of dusting off. We haven't been dipping in the books for ages. So this is Flexible Friends. It says, the beauty of friendships is that they exist in all shapes and sizes. You might consider one person alone to be your best friend, but that doesn't mean you can't have friendships with people in every sphere of your life, from the postman you sometimes chat to the work colleague you regularly confide in. Friendships can happen anywhere and anywhen. You never know how the next one will come about. And actually, you know, it's quite interesting. I was looking at friendship the other day, and there are some people I know who've had friends since their school days, and they're really good bosom buddies, great friends, and had friendships all those times. I haven't had any of those lasting friendships, but I don't regret that. I make new friends all the time, particularly through the live stream and through going on the bus. I chat to people on the bus. Some of those have now become friends that I meet for coffee, or I teach them knitting or whatever. So, you know, some people come into your life for a season and go, don't they? That's what they say. And some people come and stay, and some people there just for a short time. And I've never felt lonely where, you know, if I haven't got a whole lot of long-term friends, it doesn't matter, because all the time I'm making new friends and new friendships. Friendship, that moment when one person says to another, you too? I thought I was the only one. And that's a C.S. Lewis quote. Love is being stupid together. I can be stupid on my own. Actually, stupid is a word that my daughter's banned in her family. They don't use the word stupid. Maybe silly would be a better word there. Paul Valery was apparently supposed to have said that. This one says, smile, you're not on camera. A good friendship needs care and attention in order to flourish. It has become a social habit to document your time in photographs or on social media, which can be a distraction and hinder you from being a good participant and listener. Consider literally switching off when you spend time with friends, giving them your full attention. So there we go. There is nothing I would not do for those who are really my friends. And that's a Jane Austen quote. We'll have a couple more, and then I'll just read from my Butterfly Whispers. Laughter is the sound of the soul dancing, and that's Jared Kintz. I don't know who half these people are. Some of the names I know, but some. This one's called Enjoy Yourselves. With lots of pressures in our lives, it's easy to fall into a pattern of using a friendship as a sounding board for our problems. If you feel a friendship has been all function and no fun, set aside a day when complaints and issues are banned. Discuss the good things in your lives, or simply spend the day enjoying yourselves. And that sounds like jolly good advice to me. So let's hop into Butterfly Whispers, and see what it predicts for this, what it says for the 16th of September. Gosh, and that's more than halfway through the year. So we're more than halfway through the book, winging our way very fast towards Christmas. Hi, Louise. Just almost rounding up now, folks. I've got a croaky voice tonight. There we go. So the 16th of September, it says, what if you had a bank account in which every morning there were £86,400 in it, but what there was left at the end of the day was not carried over to the next? What would you do? You would spend every penny. We do have such a bank. It is called time. We wake each morning to 86,400 seconds. If we looked at time as if it were money, we would spend it very differently. We tend to spend a lot of time planning how we spend a lot of money. But do we plan how we spend our time? Not always, or maybe not in too much detail. I'm sure we could get more out of our day if we planned how to spend our 86,400 seconds. Time is precious and a key part in building our futures. Well, sometimes I do plan and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just take off and different things happen. I might have a bit of a plan and I go and start one thing and then all sorts of other things happen. So sometimes I plan and sometimes I don't. So, you know, that it might be good advice, but I don't always take it. So, folks, I'm going to finish up there. It's been another fun evening. Thank you for joining me. I know I'm a bit sleepy tonight. I think that I need to finish up soon. I'm going to watch, James, I'm going to watch your live stream that you did earlier because I promised I would, and I'm going to see what you did. And then I think I won't be too long going to bed. I've got an easy day tomorrow, and then I've got an interesting week. I'm having my hair cut this week. I had to put off my haircut because I was away last week. I've got a nurse's appointment to do some routine checks. Night, Janet. On Wednesday, it's the Chamber of Commerce Expo, so I should be going to that and networking around there, and of live streaming, of course. And then Thursday, I'm hobnobbing with royalty. I've had an invitation to join the trustees of Aspire, which is the local community centre, a church turned into a community centre. They've invited me to go for morning coffee and a chat. The Countess of Wessex is coming, and that's Sophie's. I think that's Sophie, isn't it? Edward's wife, if I've got that right. And so that's a really nice privilege to have been invited to that. So looking forward to that. And then I'm sure I shall be doing some more live streaming through the week. I will be chatting to you on and off in between. So, but for now, I'm going to close up and go and have another drink because of this frog in my throat, and then get a good night's sleep. I think, try and catch up so I can have a bit of a lie-in tomorrow. I think because there's nothing in the diary first thing tomorrow morning, unless I've forgotten anything, and I don't think I have. So I'm going to love you and leave you, folks. I'm tired, but I love you. You know, it doesn't mean I love you any less. And you know, if you enjoy these, please share with other people so they can come in and join our broadcast. And also the Isle of Wight page, if you can share any of those things, because that means more people see our beautiful Isle of Wight, and it keeps us on the radar when people want their holidays. Lovely place to holiday, the Isle of Wight. And if you do come on holiday here, let me know so that we can catch up and we can meet if we haven't already met. Bye for now. Love you lots.